Okay. Okay, so we're continuing our reading of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, entitled Jnana Yoga. It's number 28. You can read the Sanskrit there. 6th chapter, text 28. Yunjanevam sadatmanam
Yunjanevam sanatmanam
yogi vigata kalmasa
yogi vigata kamasa
sukhena brahma samsparsham
sukhena brahma sansparsham
atyantam sukhamashnute.
adyantam sukhamasnate.
We'll do it again. Yunjanevam sadatmanam
Yunjanevam sanatmanam
yogi vigata kalmasha
yogi vigata kamasa
sukhena brahma samsparsham
sukhena brahma sansparsham
atyantam sukhamashnute.
adyantam sukhamasnate.
Hey, Gulshan, would you like to read the translation, please?
Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constant engage in yoga practice, become free from all material contamination and achieves the highest state of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to Lord, the Krishna, the Vishnu, the Narayana.
Hey, stop adding stuff to the Bhagavad Gita. It's Bhagavad Gita as it is.
Just Lord.
It is,
Lord
Gulshan.
in every form.
Yeah, true.
Okay, Prabhu, why is the when in the first line when you say karma sha, why is that a S H and it's got a dot underneath? But the next one when it says samaspan sham, that's got a dot, the thing across the top, and that's an SH.
The answer to that question will have to come from a Sanskrit scholar, not from me.
So a dot below and
Definitely the dot below is sha.
a sha.
From memory, looking at the Sanskrit pronunciation guide in the back of the book, that the line, the stroke above the S is like snake or sprechen. I think it uses the example sprechen. So it's not a sh, but it's some sparse, some sparsome, some sparsome.
Okay.
Some sparsome. But yeah, some Sanskrit scholar might have some other things to say about that, but that's just what I remember reading in the pronunciation guide. It uses the words, I think, sprechen. Sprechen is an example of that stroke above the S.
Okay.
But definitely below, the dot below is definitely sha.
Sure.
It's Krishna, so sha. Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the last word also has it, asnute. So I think it's more like snake.
Yeah.
Asnute, not ashnute.
Okay.
Whereas the S without anything above or below is just a soft S, like the first word in the second line, sukhena. Sukhena. Yeah. So you got sukhena, kalmashaha, and asnute. Asnute.
Oh,
so
okay.
different ways of saying yes.
Yeah.
Well, I could be wrong, so Don't
No,
quote.
no, that sounds good. Thanks, Vivi.
Thank Krishna, thank God. You don't have to be a Sanskrit scholar to go back home. Otherwise, we would be taking a while to get there. Okay. So thus the self-controlled yogi. So it's mentioned self-control. That's what's just been talking about the last few verses, is controlling the mind. So this is what it means, self-control. What does it mean, self-control? It means you have to control the mind and the senses. Control the mind and the senses. This is what it means. If you control the mind and senses, you're self-controlled. If you don't control the mind or the senses, you're not self-controlled. You're out of control.
The yogi and sannyasi is the same?
What's that?
Yogi and sannyasi. Sannyasi control the senses as well, so they're same, yogi and sannyasi?
Of course, because a name for a sannyasi is called Swami or Goswami. So Swami means master. Master of what?
Master of the senses.
Is he our master? I mean, he doesn't think like that. I mean, we should think like that, the disciple. But really, master refers there not to master of people or master of things, but master of the senses. He's mastered or controlled, you could say. And that's the context. So Swami is master of the senses. Or you say Goswami. Sometimes you'll hear Goswami. So go means senses. And actually the mind is also regarded as a sense. Sometimes it's regarded as the 6 senses. And you might think, well, why 6? I thought it was 5. You know, it's the eyes, 1, nose, tongue, ears, and skin. Yeah. So that's the knowledge acquiring senses. It's 6. So it's also the mind is regarded as a sense because it is perceiving things. You perceive things in your mind, right? Like you perceive things with your eyes, with your ears, and get knowledge. Called Gyanendriya, means knowledge acquiring senses. So you perceive things with these 5 senses, and also there's perception in your mind, right? Like when you have a dream, right? You're perceiving everything in your mind, isn't it? You can see, isn't it? In the dream, you can see the dream.
Yeah.
It's not with your eyes, is it?
No.
It's not happening with these eyes, is it? But you're seeing.
No, but a lot of people are daydreaming. Even they also, the mind is using.
Yeah. I mean, if you close your eyes, some people are very good at visualization, right? And some people can just close their eyes and they can see things, you know, with their, you know, visualize things and smell. Can even smell with your mind and taste with your mind.
Well,
so
blind person use the mind only.
What's that?
Blind person only use mind.
Correct. So whatever you see goes into your mind. Whatever you hear goes into the mind. Whatever you smell into the mind, taste into the mind, touch into the mind. So that's like the hub. That's of all senses. If you didn't have a mind, the senses wouldn't work. You wouldn't see anything, hear anything, smell anything if you didn't have a mind. The mind is that's the hub. That's essential. Everything is going into the mind, and the actual perception is happening with the help of the mind. Does that make sense?
Sorry.
Yep. That's what
So when you're talking about the senses, I didn't hear you say the genitals. So does that slip into a different category?
Yeah. Good question. That's a different category. So there's knowledge acquiring senses, which we've mentioned. And then there's working senses. They're called karma indriya. Karma means action, and indriya means senses. You put it together, karma indriya. So they're working senses. Senses. So there's 5 of those. So you've got
there's 5 working ones.
Yeah, there's 5 working ones. So altogether there's 10 plus 1, the mind. So your hands, that's doing some work. So that's 1. Your legs. Can you hear that?
Yeah. Is that,
Tapping my
did
feet
you
on the
learn
floor.
the tap dance?
So your legs, that's 1. So it's not 2. So 2 hands is 1. 2 legs is 1. Your mouth is doing work. It's not getting knowledge, is it? But it's doing work, chewing, chewing what's a good example of chewing something? Chewing sugar cane. That's really hard work, chewing sugar cane. Who's chewed sugar cane?
Oh, I did that in India. Oh, plenty.
I have, but
Yes.
go on, keep going. But I'm just confused with the mouth because.
Yeah. So what it is, the knowledge acquiring sense is the tongue.
Righto.
The working sense is the mouth.
Right.
So the tongue is getting knowledge because you're tasting something with your tongue. You're not tasting with your jaw, with your mouth, your lips. You're tasting with the tongue. That's getting knowledge. You're tasting, this is sweet, this is sour. You're getting knowledge of this is sweet, sour, hot. Wow, that's so hot. So you got some knowledge there through your tongue. But the mouth is doing work, like talking now. Is the work of talking is getting done by the mouth,
Right.
so, but mainly chewing is, eating is the work. That's the main thing, is doing the work.
So
and
you've
then,
got it.
And then the genitals, which you mentioned, so that's doing work, like procreating work.
Yep.
That's not knowledge. That's just work, the work of procreating, the work of urinating. There's work done there. Conceiving children, urinating, and the anus is doing the work of evacuating. So passing stool, evacuating is done with the anus. So that's work. So they fit into categories of work and knowledge. But the central point of all of them is the mind. So yeah, that's Swami Goswami, one who's the master of the mind and the senses. So that's what a perfect yogi must first of all control the mind and senses before realizing the supreme. Like in this chapter, the object of realization is Paramatma, the super soul. For a Bhakti yogi, the object of realization is Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in either case, and the jnani, the mental speculator, the object of his realization is the impersonal Brahman. So there's the 3 different aspects of God: Brahman, the all-pervading light, and Paramatma, the super soul in the heart of every living entity. And the third one and topmost is the Supreme.
Abhay, sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just go back a little bit? So the knowledge ones are the eyes, the ears, the tongue. Did you say like the touch?
Yeah, touch, because that's getting knowledge too, right?
Yeah.
If you touch over a fire. Wow.
Now,
hot.
okay, so what was the other one? I've got touch, where you feel.
Yeah.
I've got eyes, ears, tongue, touch.
Nose. You're getting knowledge.
Of course.
Through your nose. Oh, this is this smell is a rose, so you're getting the knowledge there. Even if you didn't see the rose, if you just smelt it, you'd know. Or jasmine, so you're getting some knowledge there. Or like, if the house is burning down, you can smell it. The sun's on fire.
Okay, so hang on. So I've got 5 and 5, and then you said +1.
+1 is the mind, so
the mind.
Sometimes it'll just talk about the 10 senses, but then sometimes it's mentioned at 11, or 6. So that's because it's including the mind, because the mind is also regarded as a sense, because all the knowledge or action is getting stored up in the mind.
How big the hard disk is?
Yeah, it's pretty big. Actually, the mind contains, and within it, this is an interesting point that you brought up, Gulshan. The mind stores up the impressions, not just of this life, but of every single life. ever since the soul fell from the spiritual world, came to the material world. That's massive.
That massive
That's a massive hard drive.
terabyte.
Forget about that. That's like, I don't know, something
Infinite.
that infinite byte. You know, that's millions of lifetimes of experiences stored in the same mind. So even though you change your gross physical body every time the body dies and take birth again, you have a new gross body, but you have the same mind. So you carry the same mind with you to the next body.
Even if it's an animal body?
When you come to the material world, until you go back to Godhead, you had one mind. You had millions of gross physical bodies, but one mind.
Abhay, can I ask this? Now we've talked about being psychic before, but I'll use the word intuitive. Do you find that highly spiritual people are intuitive?
Yeah, definitely. But that's depending on, I would put a depending on underline that, is that depending on whatever Krishna wants the devotee to know. So that's the thing, you know. Krishna is also not going to overload a devotee with unnecessary junk, you know. What did Prabhupada say? Simple living, high thinking. You know, how are you going to, you know, have simple living and high thinking if your mind is perceiving, you know, all the pleasure and pain of the animals and everything like that, the pain of the trees and the fish and their pleasure, and you're tuning in with your grandmother in Alaska and everything like that, what she's feeling and everything. I mean, that's going to disturb your Krishna consciousness. So, but if you need something for your service, like Prabhupada, he knew amazing stuff about his disciples. You know, it's incredible. You can read the pastimes from the devotees, and they were saying, now, how did Prabhupada know that, you know, about me? This is the first time he's met me, and he's like said something that's, you know, only someone that had some previous knowledge would know, you know. So I mean, there's pretty mystical.
But Prabhupada was not ordinary person. He was an ordinary.
I know that, but my point is that, I mean, I'll give you an example. One time a devotee asked Prabhupada, can a spiritual master be omniscient? So everyone knows what omniscient means?
No, explain it to me.
Omniscient means knows everything.
Right.
Oh.
Like there's these terms about God that's used by Christians usually. One of them is omniscient, means God knows everything. One is omnipresent, means he's everywhere, obviously.
Yep.
And the other is omnipotent, means he is all powerful. He has many potencies. That's called omnipotent. So omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. So omniscient means knows everything. So the spiritual master is omniscient, knows everything. And Prabhupada said yes, whatever Krishna wants him to know. So it's conceivable that he could know anything and everything, because it depends on what Krishna wants him to know. And I'll give you some examples in the universe. Are you aware there's a person that controls death?
Yeah, Yamaraj.
Yamaraj, that's his name. Like there's a person that controls the air, person that controls water, fire. There's 33 million of them. Yeah. 33 million departments in the universe, things that need to be taken care of, administration. These are Krishna's administrators. Did you notice Krishna's playing a flute? He's not organizing our air and our water and our sunshine and everything, fire and everything like that. He's got all his assistants doing that. He's just playing the flute and stealing butter and dancing with gopis and herding cows. You know, he's just enjoying. So there's one department is you've got to transfer the soul from one body to the next. So someone's got to do that, right? So Yamaraj, this one devotee named Yama, that's not his name, but that's the position. It's like, you know, you have the Minister of Health, Minister of Social Welfare. So there's this Minister of Death sorting out the transference of the soul from one body to the next. So in order to transfer the soul from this body to the next one, what have you got to know about the person that you're transferring? Can you be ignorant about that person? If your responsibility is to transfer the soul, from one body to the next, how are you going to know? How are you going to know what body to put him in?
No.
How do you know whether to put him in a body upwards or put him on a body downwards?
Unless we got an instructor.
So do you mean to know whether to move me to a female body or a male body?
Yeah, anything. Could be anything.
Sort of
Animal, could be male, female, could be dog, fish, cow.
Yeah.
So what can he be ignorant about those souls, about their background, about their desires?
No, he'd have to know everything.
He has to know everything about everyone's history, and basically what's the mortality rate on the earth, do you know?
No.
It's 100%. Everyone dies, right? So he's got to know everyone's history. Everyone. He knows everything that 6 billion plus human beings have done.
Even animal as well.
Good. He knows all the good and all the bad that they've done. He knows all their desires. And that helps him to determine where the soul is going to go. Otherwise, how can you determine where to send the soul to if you don't know what they desire, if you don't know what good and bad they've done? So that's an example, but that's only within the universe that he's in charge of. So there's one Yama. So within this universe, this Yamaraj knows everything about everyone. But he doesn't know another universe, or he doesn't know the spiritual world. So he doesn't know everything, but he knows whatever he needs to do his service. And another example of omniscient is Narada Muni, that God gave that power of omniscient knowing everything to Narada Muni, because he's a universal traveling preacher, so he goes from planet to planet preaching. So in order for him to best be able to help people become Krishna conscious, he needs to know about them like that, and then he can best help them. So Krishna has given him extra knowledge like that. So it depends. So I wouldn't say, Bob, that necessarily every advanced devotee is gonna be like have psychic powers and, you know, be able to read into your heart and read into your mind and everything like that. But sometimes, yes, like Prabhupada, he definitely had that ability. Like many devotees, they write that when they came into Prabhupada's presence and Prabhupada looked them in the eyes, it was like he was looking right into their soul. And it's like he could see everything about them. And if one or two people say that, I mean, maybe could be like that. But there's like dozens and dozens of cases of devotees that said like that. They felt that they felt like they were standing naked in front of Prabhupada, that he could see everything within their heart, within their mind. And some things Prabhupada said indicated that he did know, you know, amazing things. But that's, you know, I wouldn't say that's in every case going to be there. Like I wouldn't say every guru is going to be psychic or anything like that. But it just depends and it might just be happening for a short period of time. You might have some extra ability to connect with others. I'm just going to turn this off. You might have some some ability to connect with other people mind to mind for a short period of time, and then it might go away. So it just depends. Krishna knows what we need, but that's not our business, just to connect with other people's minds and so forth, because our goal is actually to get free from this mind. And in the spiritual world, we have a spiritual mind. But this is a spiritual process. It's not on the physical platform. It's not on the mental platform. It's not on the intellectual platform. It's on the spiritual platform. So you're saying, how devotees are really good on the mental platform. Not necessarily, because the spiritual platform is above the mental platform. So some people, psychic people, whatever, they have some special mental abilities. But that's not our real focus, is fine-tuning our mental abilities or whatever like that, connecting with other people, connecting with the dead ancestors, or, connecting with people on other planets, or talking with the animals or the plants, or that's not our real focus. Our focus is to realize our relationship with Krishna and go back to Godhead, and until that happens, try to help some other people to connect with Krishna also. Does that make sense, Bob?
Very much so. Yep.
But if some special mental abilities help with our service to Krishna, then yeah, Krishna may give. But I certainly wouldn't study for 3 years or 5 years to become a psychic.
No. You answered my question just explaining about Prabhupada.
Yeah.
When you said he seemed to have the ability to read you,
Yeah.
Not read might be the wrong word, but
yeah, no. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting things. Yeah, so controlling the mind, that comes first. So before we can become a perfect yogi, you have to first of all master the senses and the mind. That's a prerequisite. That's essential. And if anyone says, you can become a successful yogi without controlling the mind and senses, like some so-called gurus say that, eat whatever you like, have whatever sex you like, it doesn't really matter what you do, just think about God, meditate on God, and you can eat and drink whatever you want and everything, and have sex and everything with everyone and like that, as long as you worship me, the guru, and give me some money, like that. And then, so there's so many cheaters like that. And of course, that will mean that they have many followers because they've made it so easy, so cheap.
Yep.
So cheap. They might have, hundreds of thousands or millions of followers because they just made it so cheap. Some genuine guru who's very strict, what does the strict guru say? No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. Immediately 99.9% of the people will not want to follow that, because it's too difficult, for most people. Like one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples, so that means Prabhupada's god brother, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is Prabhupada's guru. He went to England before Prabhupada went to America, but he wasn't successful and he came back. But anyway, one time he met this Lord Zetland. He was from I don't know where Zetland is, but he was called I think Lord Zetland, and he said to the devotee, "Can you make me a Brahmin? I would like to be a Brahmin." And the devotee said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Okay, what do I have to do? Okay, you have to follow these rules: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. He said, "What? That's impossible." He said, "That's impossible." So he gave up that idea of becoming a Brahmin, so it was like a trendy thing to become a Brahmin. because they're very respected in India, of course, the Brahmins, very respected. But there's a reason why they're respected if they're a genuine Brahmin, because they can control their senses, control the mind. That's why they're so respected, because they can master the senses and the mind. But yeah, like that. So a lot of so-called gurus tell their yogi followers, you know, do whatever you like, but that's nonsense, really. Here in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself. By the way, Bhagavad Gita is the original yoga text. You got so many yoga books, right? But this is the original book on yoga. This is the original book on yoga. If you don't believe me, look at 4th chapter, text number 1. No, it's 2. 4th chapter, text number 2. No, I was right. I should have stuck with what I first said. 1. Someone to read that, Bob?
I'm not there yet. 4th chapter, number 2. I'm nearly there.
Oh no, I was right the second time. Number 2. Sorry, text number 2. 4th chapter, text 2.
Yeah, that's this supreme science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, you read it.
This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost.
So what is that science? It's got yoga. If you look in the word for word, yoga nasta parantapa. So that means yoga, right? So yoga, the science of one's relationship with spring. So the first verse also says it in the translation. Text 1, look at the previous one. Bhakti Mala.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasan, and Vivasan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikasavaku.
Ishwaku.
So these verses use the word yoga. So this is the science of yoga. This Bhagavad Gita, 5,000 years ago, Krishna spoke it to Arjuna. Previous to that, Krishna spoke it to the sun god, like millions of years ago. So this is not just some new book on yoga either. So it's the oldest book on yoga, most authentic. This is the original. Prabhupada mentions in the purport, you can check it out sometime, but I'll just look it up here, that he says a rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least, get this, 120,400,000 years ago.
120,400,000.
To the sun god. Prabhupada says that in the purport.
Wow.
Prabhupada, so this is not just some new thing on yoga.
It's not a 5,000
years is like peanuts.
Yeah.
120,400,000 years ago, Krishna spoke the same knowledge that he spoke to Arjuna, the science of yoga. He spoke it to the sun god. The sun god spoke it to his son Ikshvaku, and Ikshvaku spoke it to Manu. So that this is an example of the disciplic succession, that it gets passed down from guru to disciple. Sometimes the disciple is your son, so, and many times not. But in this case, it was the sun god gave the knowledge to his son, so the son became the disciple. Like it's like a pun, isn't it? The son of the sun god. Yeah, so this is a book on yoga. So this is, and in this book, what is it saying? So back to today's verse, is the self-controlled yogi. Okay, you want to be a yogi, you want to practice yoga, you have to control your mind and senses. You can't just eat whatever you like, sex whatever you like, you know, anything like that, gamble, blah, 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 you know, drink everything. No, you can't. I mean, of course you can, but then you're not a yogi. don't call yourself a yogi and not control your senses. You're not.
That's called a
I mean,
bogey.
say, oh, I'm trying to be a yogi. Okay, then you can. I'm not there yet. But add the word trying in front of when you say you're a yogi. Just don't say I'm a yogi. Say I'm trying to be a yogi. Like one time, Toshan Krishna, because he's an old friend of mine since '93. He said to me a nice thing in Bengali, and then he translated it. Ame Krishna das hote chai. What that means is, I am trying to be a servant of Krishna. I'm trying to be. So that's good to put that there, because that's more honest. If you say I'm a devotee of Krishna, whoa, that's
an ego.
Quite a high thing. Devotee of Krishna means controlling the mind and senses and love for Krishna, fully devoted, everything. Just put the word trying in front of it. I'm trying to be a bhakti yogi. I'm trying to be a devotee, like that. I'm trying to serve Krishna. I'm trying to serve my spiritual master, like that. I'm trying to serve Radha Gokulananda, like that, the best I can. That's more exact, more correct. One great brain came to Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said, I've got a question that nobody can answer except for this guru. Nobody else can answer this question. Very difficult question. So he said that to a servant, because you can't just walk right in. You have to get stopped by the servant. So the servant went to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said there's a guy there saying he's got this far out question that only you can answer, no one else can answer it. Can he come in? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, ask him who he is, like what his position is. How does he see himself? What's his position? So the servant asked this intellectual guy, so what's your position? He said, I'm a servant of Krishna. And so that was told to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and then he said, I don't want to see him. So why didn't he want to see him? Because actually his understanding was not correct.
Yeah, he's not humble.
Because to be a servant of Krishna means who's a servant of Krishna? That's like Radharani as a servant of Krishna.
Gopis.
That's like Arjuna as a servant of Krishna, the gopis, Nanda, Yashoda, Devaki, Vasudeva. That's, a few people are directly serving Krishna. What's our position is more like, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. It's like that, so not directly, but indirectly.
Or trying to be.
Yeah, we're trying to serve the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. And that's more exact. That's more specific. I mean, in the general sense, yes, we're a servant of Krishna, we're a devotee of Krishna, yes. But if you want to get more specific, then we would say like that, so, and it's good. That's invoking humility in us also. And Krishna enjoys that more when you try to serve his servants than serve him directly. It's very hard to serve Krishna directly. Why do you think that is?
Krishna lives in their devotees.
Yeah, Krishna lives with the devotees. Yep.
If you serve the devotees, serve Krishna.
Why is it difficult to serve Krishna? Why is it difficult to please Krishna?
I think we don't have the position. Means Radharani can serve Krishna, gopis can serve Krishna. I don't think so. We got a position.
We're just not purified enough either. We've got so much junk in our hearts and everything like that to properly serve Krishna.
But look at it. Okay, that's all correct what you're saying, but here's another angle. Krishna, he has everything already, right? He owns everything. So what can you do for him?
Our intentions.
If you give him some money, does he need that?
No.
If you build him a temple, does he need that? If you give him some food, does he need that? If you like that, is there anything he needs? Anything?
Our intentions, the bhava.
Definitely, yeah. So he doesn't need anything. He appreciates just your feeling, your love. However, what about Krishna's servants? Do they have everything? Is there anything they need? Like Prabhupada, for example?
No.
Yeah.
Well, like what? He's got everything. Got Krishna's mercy on him.
Krishna, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Whoever got Krishna doesn't need anything.
No, he does. Because
for material purpose, maybe.
He couldn't get transportation to America for ages. He needed a ticket. And then when he finally got a ticket from Sumati Maharaji was her name, very pious lady. She got a lot of mercy by organizing a ticket, free pass to America for Prabhupada. Then when he got there, then he needed a green card. So he needed that. And that got organized. And I mean, and he needed money to pay the rent. And he needed some food. You know, so the individual soul, the devotee, you know, we need many things, you know, and if you come forward to offer some service, you know, then that's very valuable. And Krishna is very pleased if you serve his devotee. If you serve Krishna's devotee who needs so many things and you give some service, then you get so much blessings from Krishna. Whereas trying to serve Krishna directly can be more difficult. Of course, you know, Krishna appreciates the feeling that we have. In one sense, it's not difficult because, like it says in the 9th chapter, text 26, if me with love and devotion, a leaf or fruit or flower or water, then I will accept it. Yeah, with love and devotion, a leaf or fruit or flower or water. So you don't have to offer big things. Even just a fruit or a flower, if you offer with love, he accepts it. So yeah, the main thing is the love. But then also, do we have a lot of love for Krishna? That's the other thing. Okay, it's pretty easy. I just got to give Krishna a piece of fruit, you know, pick a flower out of the garden. But then he says twice there that bhakti, he uses the word bhakti. Bhakti means love. So I think I'm a little bit short on that one ingredient, you know, because that's the main thing, you know, like I said, Krishna doesn't need anything. He's so rich. He's so, you know, powerful. He doesn't need anything, but he just love, you know. So, but also we're working on developing the love, you know. So, but even if you give something to a devotee, even if you don't have a lot of love, but you just happen to give something to a devotee, you immediately get blessed by Krishna. Oh my God! You just hit the jackpot, you know, and your spiritual bank account just got a massive addition. You just got a massive what do you call it when you put some money in the bank? You just got a
deposit.
Massive deposit, yeah, huge deposit. Even you weren't even conscious of it. You just happened to be the person that was sitting at the desk handing over the green card to Prabhupada. You know, you happened to be the person that, you know, gave Prabhupada some money to pay the rent for the temple. You just got a massive deposit in your spiritual bank account. Krishna's like so pleased, and Krishna, the first time, you know, that Krishna ever going to look at you. Then, you know, Krishna's like, oh, well, who's this? Who's this soul that just gave some money to my devotee? Wow, they're cool. I like this person. Oh, give him some blessings to become Krishna conscious. You know, it's like that. You know, I mean, you can, yeah. I mean, that's really the only way, even like offering food, getting back to that, the only way we can offer Krishna food is that we're not offering Krishna the food. We're actually offering the food to our spiritual master, and he offers it. Because we don't even have any qualification to directly offer the food to Krishna. You know, like even the apple, okay, you go, I'm going to give an apple to Krishna. Well, that's actually not correct. You're actually giving the apple to the spiritual master, and the spiritual master offers it to his spiritual master, and his spiritual master offers it to his spiritual master. And that way the apple finally gets to Radharani, and Radharani gives it to Krishna. That's, you know, a more detailed way how the offering process works. That's the science there of yoga, of bhakti yoga. So really, that's it. You know, we're really the servant of the devotees. We're servant of the servant. Think about it. There's one book that was called The Servant of the Servant, about Tamal Krishna Goswami, like that. So very important to be aware of that. That's very valuable to serve the devotees, serve the servants, because that, you know, that they need so many things, and if you help them out, then, you know, Krishna's going to be very pleased. Going to be very pleased. It's said that whatever you give to a topmost devotee, you get back unlimitedly in return in the next life. Unlimitedly. That's if you have a next life. You might go back to Godhead. But even if you have a next life, say you gave $10 to a pure devotee, like on Prabhupada's level. If you gave $10 to Prabhupada, you cannot calculate how much wealth. It's not like 1,000 or 100,000 or 1 million or 10 million or 100 million.
Countless.
Talking about maybe it was, you know, he's like, you know, that's how he became Bill Gates or something. Maybe in his previous life, you know, he gave something to a devotee or whatever. I'll tell you what. Actually, it's interesting. A lot of people maybe don't like President Trump. But many years ago, he leased out some of his land in, I think it was New York or some big city. He gave it to the devotees, the ISKCON devotees, gave it no cost.
Really?
For them to build a rough cart just for that time. That, you know, it was a vacant piece of land. So he gave it to them to use to build a rough cart for whatever months that took. Let them use it. So I mean, even that was a great service to the devotees, to the movement, you know, helping. He actually assisted to perform a Rath Yatra by giving a place to do that. So maybe that's why he became the president for some time, because as a result of him, you know, pleasing the devotees and serving Lord Jagannath like that. So I mean, it's special mercy to serve the devotees like that. Anyway, that's something I just thought good to mention. So yeah, controlling the senses, getting back to today's one, controlling the senses in the mind, constantly engaged in yoga practice. So yeah, that's happening side by side. So on one side, you're controlling the mind and senses. On the other side, the mind and senses are engaged in some positive service. And you may question, you know, how the hell am I going to do it? You know, how do I this tongue is so difficult to control. There's one song we sing traditionally before we have prasadam. Sarya Vijajal Jajendriya Taikal Jiva Fali Visar Sagare. If you've been to the farm, you might hear it sometimes before you eat. It's a Bengali prayer. It's in the songbook, the translation and everything. It's saying of all the senses, this is part of the song, of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and difficult to control. And Krishna, you're so kind to give us this, your own food remnants, just to help us to control the tongue. So that's the fact, you know. So how the hell am I going to control my genitals and my tongue and my eyes and so forth? It becomes easy for the devotee, or easier, because we have positive engagement and service to Krishna, like it's saying here, constantly engaged in yoga practice. So That's how you do it. That's the secret of the first bit. How do you control your senses? The answer to that is the next bit, constantly engaged in yoga practice. If you're not constantly engaged in one service or another, hearing or chanting or remembering or worshipping or whatever, 9 processes, then definitely it's going to become harder. It's going to become harder. If you're not engaged in serving God and serving Krishna, then you have to serve something. Then you're going to be serving your senses. You see, the nature of the soul is to serve, right? That's the dharma. That's the constitutional position of the atma, of the soul, is to serve Krishna. If you're not serving Krishna, but your nature is to serve, you cannot for a moment not serve, because that's your dharma. Like it's the natural characteristic. You can't separate it. Like, what's the dharma with that idea in mind? What's the dharma of a chili?
To be hot.
To be hot. You can't separate it. Can a chili be sweet, salty, sour? It has to be hot. What about sugar? What's the dharma of sugar?
Sweet.
Sweet. Can sugar be hot? Can it be salty? Can it be bitter? You know, like that, everything. What's the dharma of fire?
To give out heat.
Yeah, heat, light, like that, burn things, cook things, you know, so everything, you name it. What's the dharma of a table?
Used for eating something or putting some stuff. Or...
Yeah. And especially whatever you don't want to be on the floor. So the dharma of the table is to keep things off the floor. What's the dharma of the floor? Whatever you don't want to put on the table.
Support.
So like that. So everything has a dharma. So what's the dharma of the soul? What's the characteristic of the soul? You can't.
Serving.
Service.
So when you when you told us that killing was a very powerful sense.
No, it's a very powerful pleasure.
A powerful pleasure. Okay.
Like sex. It said usually it's said sex is the highest pleasure in the material world.
Yeah.
It's not the highest pleasure, but in materialistic circles, you know, it's the highest pleasure. It's small pleasure compared to many other things. But, you know, in terms of the body, but sometimes Prabhupada said there's a pleasure higher than sex, and that's the pleasure of killing. Because why? You know, that's crazy. How can that be a pleasure? But it's a fact, because there's that feeling of control. You have complete control. I can control your life. You know, so that's the kind of pleasure that we try to imitate God. One is by trying to be the enjoyer, so that by sex, and then be the controller, which is by killing. So that way we're trying to imitate God, being the controller, being the enjoyer through these things. Yeah. So yeah. Is that okay? Does that make sense, Bob?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So that's the key, and that's the great fortune of us as an aspiring Bhakti yogi that other yogis don't have. You know, we have service to Krishna to give a positive engagement for our mind, a positive engagement for our senses. Imagine what would it be like to control your senses and mind if you had no Maha Mantra, if you had no Bhagavad Gita, no books, if you had no prasadam. Imagine how would you control your tongue?
You can't control.
From McDonald's and KFC and Burger King and everything
Not
like that.
Possible.
If you didn't have prasadam.
Not possible.
Be difficult.
Oh, by the way, that reminds me on the tongue. Jamie Oliver, you heard of Jamie?
Yeah.
He won a case against McDonald's.
I saw that, yeah.
What did he do? Win a case?
He won a case in the court against McDonald's. He won. McDonald's lost.
Right.
What was the case? That his case was that McDonald's food is not fit for a human being to eat. Is that right, Bhakti Mala? Something like that?
Yeah, it was like what they put in the burger patty.
It's not fit for human consumption.
Yeah.
and he won the case. So that doesn't
Hare
say
Krishna can tell.
good things about
If
McDonald's.
Prabhupada can tell.
I mean, of course, we know that it's disgusting,
Yeah.
but it's not even materially speaking. It's going to make you unhealthy and sick. You know, it's got so many toxic compounds, chemicals. The color of the nice meat or whatever like that, red or whatever, they put this stuff in it, you know, like that, which is highly toxic, highly poisonous. So, I mean, I wouldn't even feed it to a dog. You know, I wouldn't feed it my dog. It would probably kill my dog after some time if I fed him McDonald's food. It's just so poisonous. And, you know, and I remember I was brought up on it, you know. I mean, it's just amazing Krishna's mercy that I'm still alive after eating so much McDonald's.
Look at the material world. So, is the top chain for this fast food chain in the world. How?
I mean, and it's probably the top.
People are.
It's probably also the top cause of disease, you know, in terms of food-related diseases. You know, because it's like so toxic.
I think he gave money to the medical system.
Even we like to thank Prabhupada for saving us from McDonald's. We saved our health, you know. So like that, you know. But it would be hard, you know. How would we give up these things like, you know, McDonald's and Coke and tea and coffee and garlic and onions and all these kind of things, you know, and drinking beer and everything. Sometimes I go to the rubbish tip, you know, and you see people putting the recycling. And here you have to put the recycling yourself individually, and they have different boxes and everything. A small town. So, oh my God, I mean, the back of the car is just completely full of beer bottles. They don't bring anything else. It's just wine bottles, beer bottles. You know, they've got a container for white bottles and green bottles and brown bottles. And you just see that it's like these bins are always full. Everything else is empty. Every other container is empty, but the containers for the liquor bottles and beer bottles is always full. And people just, I can't believe it. I'm watching them. You know, I'm emptying my stuff. And for 10 minutes, they're just transferring beer bottles out of their car. So, I mean, how do you give that up unless you've got some positive engagement? That's the only way. That's the only way. You know, I was able to get free from all these bad habits because the devotees kept me so busy. I mean, I was so busy that, you know, from 3:34 in the morning till 10, at least 10 at night, I had no moment to spare. They were just flat out. Where's the chance to get in Maya? Is there any chance?
No.
I mean, in that sense, the temple program is great. You know, living in a temple or a community like that, it's just so busy. Some devotees, when I was a manager of New Gokula, would complain that, oh, there's just too much work, too much service. And I'm internally, I'm thinking, sometimes I'd tell them, this is mercy, that you're so busy. You know, constant engagement and service. And it's keeping us free from Maya, because otherwise we get in Maya. Like they say, what Prabhupada quoted the saying so many times. I mean, I've lost count of how many times I heard Prabhupada say, idle mind is a devil's workshop. And it is. It's a fact. You know, that's a very old saying. Prabhupada took that saying. So keep always busy, like it's saying here, constantly engaged in yoga practice. You know, you chant for a bit, and then you hear some lecture for a bit, you read a bit, you take prasadam for a bit, you cook something for Krishna for a bit, make a garland for a bit, like that, fill up your day. You know, go for a japa walk for a bit, you know, talk to some people about Krishna for a bit, worship your deities for a bit, you know, rest your body for a bit, because that's also service. If you use your body the whole day long in Krishna's service, your sleeping is also service. You're resting your body to get it energized again to do more service the next day. That's also service. So like that, you know, it's constant. That's ideal. Of course, in the beginning, it's not going to be constant. But and there probably will be some problems because of that. But we should just try to increase. Okay, now I'm, 20% engaged in yoga practice, and then next year I'm 30%, next year 40%, next year 50%, like that. So just slowly try to do more, fill up the time more with service to Krishna, and less for our own sense gratification. Of course, everything for a devotee is service. Once you surrender your life to Krishna and saying, for so many lifetimes I was just engaged in trying to please my own senses. Now I'm surrendering to you and I want to please your senses. So as soon as you do that, then that's when it starts, and I lost my train of thought. I had a pointer.
Everything you do becomes service to Krishna.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for that, Mala. So once you do that, everything becomes a service once you surrender to Krishna. So even then, normally like eating, you could say sense gratification, but even a devotee's eating is service. Like I said, sleeping is service. Everything a devotee does is service. When a devotee cleans something, when he drives in the car somewhere, that's service. Because why are you driving the car? To go on Harinam, to, buy some boga for the temple, like that, or buy it for your temple at your home. You got a temple in your home, whatever you cook in the house, you offer to Krishna. So whatever, even you go and buy some groceries, that's service. That's not ordinary, because you're doing everything in Krishna consciousness, for a service for Krishna.
Okay. Work for Krishna.
Yeah, work for Krishna.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about Krishna.
Yeah.
Like that. So it's all service. So in that way, the main point is that once you start making your life a life of service, then automatically your senses come under control. So it's not so hard. Of course, you have to make some effort. I'm not saying there's no effort. Woman or opposite sex, depending on what body you're in, walks past you or whatever, the mind may get disturbed. So it's not that, Krishna's just going to take care of everything. You have to make some effort to bring back the mind. That's what we read in the two verses before, right? 26, if you look at text 26, from wherever the mind wanders, nature, one must withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So that takes some effort. That's not Krishna doing that. Krishna's really cool, he just, my mind went over to the left and he just brought it back straight and narrow. No, that's you got to do that. So that's
called a free will.
Yeah, that's your free will. So Krishna's not doing everything, but if you've got a lot of service to do, that's Krishna's mercy. Like when the prostitute came to Haridas Thakur, he said, I'll enjoy with you later. I'll enjoy with you. Like she said, let's enjoy together. You're a handsome young man. I'm a woman. Let's like that. I'll please you and everything. We'll live happily together and everything. And he said, yeah, sure. We'll take care of that. But first, I got to finish chanting my rounds. And she didn't realize how many rounds.
Maya.
So he made a vow to chant 300,000 names a day. That's 192 rounds a day. So, no, forget about sex, but no eating before that's done. No sleeping before that's done.
Not even stretching.
So he's just so engaged. And then later on, Maya herself, so beautiful, came to test him, and he passed that one also. Engagement, so much service. So just see it as a blessing. Of course, we still have to pace ourselves. Some devotees get burnt out sometimes by trying to take on too much. But I would say generally better too much service than not enough. You understand?
Yeah. I reckon balance.
Better too much than not enough. And best is the right amount for what you can handle with your health and everything like that. But better, always good to feel a little bit of pressure, a little bit of a challenge.
In the pressure,
there should always be some challenge. You should always feel a sense of challenge. That I have so much I want to do, like that. Of course, it's all voluntary. No one's forcing us. So, but we should ourselves feel like that. And Prabhupada was the expert at giving every devotee, whatever 10,000 or whatever disciples he had, they all felt a sense of challenge in their life. That was his. Can you imagine? It's amazing that Prabhupada could do that. He gave everyone, because that's one of the duties of a spiritual master, to engage every disciple in Krishna's service according to their nature, according to their natural propensities, their psychophysical nature. So he's got to figure out a service for them. Of course, we all chant Hare Krishna, but like the rest of the time, what you're going to do during the day, whether you're going to become a chef or you're going to become a pujari or you're going to become a preacher or a book distributor or whatever. So he's determining that. So my brain is I've been just working like a donkey, so my brain is a bit worn out. But I think I've smelt too many petrol fumes today. I've blown a few brain cells from all the petrol fumes of the thing I've been using. Anyway, it's for Krishna's service.
You've been talking about engaging in people in relation to their own natures as well, like that Prabhupada did that with so many of his devotees. Challenge. You were talking about challenge.
Oh yeah, challenge. Bhakti Mala, thank you. So you're my saving grace today, Bhakti Mala. Thank you.
Challenge.
So you're like my hard drive. So yeah. My spiritual master, he joined, right? He just joined. He heard a lecture and that was it from Prabhupada, and he just joined. And after 6 months, can you imagine you started out and 6 months later, the devotee came to him and said, oh, you're a senior devotee now. You've been around 6 months. So you're going to become a pujari. We'll make you a brahmana now. So what a challenge, So we complain that, whatever, you're a sayer and, you get initiated, and then another 5 years later you get Brahman initiation. But there it's like, oh, you've been around for 6 months. You're a senior devotee now.
Prabhupada knows that he doesn't have much time.
And then so challenged, and he's like not even probably 20 years old. What was I doing when I was 20 years old? Just a nutcase. So, and then probably another 6 months or a year later, he'd gone to India. Prabhupada had asked some devotees to go to India. So the temple manager had said, okay, Giriraj, you go to India, and Prabhupada's going to do all traveling around and preaching there. You go with him. So, and then they finally got some land in Juhu in Bombay. And Prabhupada was very pleased by his hard-working service attitude, and he would just be very obediently do whatever Prabhupada said. So Prabhupada said to Giriraj, okay, I want you to manage this this project. You organize the temple construction and everything. And Giriraj's mouth just went,
How old you Guru Maharaj was?
Oh my God, it's like, I'm just a new devotee. I'm probably 20 years old, and Prabhupada's giving me this like multi-million-dollar project and everything, and it's like, hundreds of devotees underneath him, and Prabhupada just go to the next place and left him behind. So he's just left in charge. He's like 20 years old. He's probably been a devotee for about a year and a half, and he's never done management before in his life, never dealt with finances, never dealt with organizing people, nothing, and how the hell is he going to do it? It's a challenge. But then you got to, Prabhupada's giving me this responsibility. I have to do it to please Prabhupada. I love Prabhupada. I just want to please him. So what would he do? Every morning he would go to the deities and he would spend the time praying, Krishna, please help me get through the day. Can't do it. You please help me, Krishna. Save me. you know, this demon, Mr. Naya, was causing problems like so much, and they nearly lost the property. So many devotees left. They couldn't hack it. They couldn't handle it. Only like he stayed through, you know. And Prabhupada noticed it, you know, that through hell and high water, thick and thin, he was there, you know. So, and he got some special mercy, you know. So I'm not saying we have to do that much challenge. That was a special example, but like a lot of challenge, like Prabhupada said, if you want to really get my special mercy, special blessings, you should go to a Muslim country. That's like almost like at that time like a death sentence.
Yeah.
You know, so preach, because you know, like preaching, oh my God. I mean,
no.
anyone can go to a Muslim country, but you try preaching,
Oh, no.
you know, like Krishna consciousness, which is like they're going to see it as like Hindu. You go to a Muslim country and preach like Hinduism. I mean, it's not Hinduism, but from their point of view, they are going to like, you know,
Yeah,
it's like,
it's actually written in the Quran. You have to kill that person who's a preacher, or the person you converting that from Islam to other religion. You have to kill both. It's written there.
there was one devotee that was in Pakistan when there was declared a war between Pakistan and India in 1971 or 72.
Yeah,
I think
there was one war. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a war between India and Pakistan, and there was a devotee stuck in Pakistan.
He's got no chance.
Prabhupada read a newspaper reading that some American was killed. And he thought, oh my God, it's my disciple has died. You know, and later on, like a few weeks later, that disciple turned up at the temple. And Prabhupada was like so relieved, and he like hugged him for ages, and he wouldn't let him go. It was like his son had returned from the dead, you know. So Prabhupada would give so challenging big services. He said to one devotee, you go to Africa and preach. You know, I mean, what part of Africa? I mean, like the whole Africa. It's like, can you imagine?
Oh.
Well, because there was hardly any devotees. So one devotee, Brahmananda, is in the whole of Africa. Oh my God. And we complain about, you know, I have to wash the pots or whatever, you know. So, God, it's like, but the thing was that by doing so much service, those devotees, their spiritual advancement accelerated, just leaps and bounds. They became so exalted. Within 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, you know, they were like doubling, tripling, quadrupling their bhakti. Everything was like, you know, after joining, you know. No, I mean, that's the thing, you know, that's good management. You got to keep giving new challenges to the devotees, you know. Unfortunately, we don't have so many managers like that, and, you know, Prabhupada's not there. So, but, you know, we should take direct inspiration from here, from Krishna, that we should be constantly engaged like that, and from hearing from Prabhupada. And we have to do that ourselves, you know. Previously, Prabhupada would challenge you. Now, what it's like is, if you want to really do well, you have to challenge yourself, because no one's going to do it for you anymore. Probably no one is. There's probably hardly anyone, whether they're a guru or a manager, hardly anyone does that. I mean, some really good few do it, but it's very rare. So you have to do that. I mean, I feel challenged right now to help set up this sort of vanashram sort of situation, farming situation, self-sufficiency, simple living, which is one of the final desires of Prabhupada in 1977. And I feel like Prabhupada himself has given me that service, because he said, do it, do it, do it. He told the devotees, you know, 3 times. He said many times in that final year before he left, he said that was his final mission, that he said 50% of my work is not complete. And the devotees were wondering what that remaining 50% was. What do you mean, Prabhupada? Do you mean you haven't finished writing the Srimad Bhagavatam? No. You haven't built Mayapur, big temple? No. I haven't re-established Vanashram. So Vanashram means that, you know, you're producing your own food, milking the cows, and, you know, and chanting Hare Krishna, living a simple life, basically simple living, high thinking. Everyone's engaged according to their nature. Challenged by that, and that's pushing me. That's pushing me to work hard, you know, and that's good because that's keeping me engaged. Otherwise, you know my mind would drive me crazy, you know, especially in a remote place like this. You know, what do most of my neighbors do? You know what they do? Drinking, smoke marijuana. Now that's pee, right? Now it's forget about marijuana. Now it's like pee. You know, this heavy stuff, you know, blow their brains out. One of these guys next to me, you know, lives in a caravan and it's just full of beer bottles. Not just inside, outside. It's so disgusting. Talk about my ignorance.
You tried to sell Bhagavad Gita to him?
No, but actually he loves halava. He loves halava.
That's great. You have a
I give him so much, and he came to our house, oh my God, for kirtan.
Great.
And he said, whenever you have chanting in your house, please invite me. I mean, it's mercy. That's Lord Chaitanya.
That's right.
If that's not Lord Chaitanya's mercy, I don't know what's Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Not the most, but he's very degraded. If you go by his activities and his behavior, he's very degraded. But somehow or other, he's attracted to Krishna consciousness. And I know what part of the reason is. His brother is a devotee. Can you believe it?
His brother is?
This drunkard, that my neighbor, his brother is a devotee.
Wow.
And it's one of the first things he said to me when he knew I was a Hare Krishna. Oh, my brother's a Hare Krishna. You know? And about 20 years ago, he was drunk in a pub. And you know, when you're drunk, you don't know what you're saying. One guy, in his drunken state, insulted one guy. The guy smashed him so hard, gave him brain damage. So for the last 20 plus years, he's been brain damaged. You know, it's for the whole life. You know, since then, he's brain damaged. He can't really do much. He's got a walking stick. He's got one walking stick because he can't walk properly because half his brain is like smashed up. But somehow he likes halava and he likes chanting. So, I mean, materially he's very unfortunate, but spiritually he's very fortunate. Now, some people, they're vegetarian and they're very intellectual and very pious, but they don't want to chant Hare Krishna. They don't want to have prasadam. They don't want to associate with devotees. Those are the ones I feel sorry for. Those ones that don't take up Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, those are the ones we should cry about, that we should lament about, that they are so unfortunate. They are condemned. You know, these ones that, you know, even once in their life they've chanted Hare Krishna, or once in their life taken prasadam or got a book or something like that. There's nothing to worry about them. You know, they're very lucky. I feel very happy for them. They're very blessed. Definitely they're on their way back to Godhead. You know? Interesting, huh? Anyway, time's running out. We've just got a couple more minutes. So if you engage in bhakti, then that'll help you to control your mind and senses. And then if you do that, then you become free from material contamination. So that's why we're so contaminated, because we haven't controlled the mind and senses. So you get one body after another due to uncontrolled senses. You know, you want to eat so many things, so you get the body of a pig or the body of a dog, whatever like that. You want a lot of sex, so you get the body of a pigeon. You know, so it's the uncontrolled senses that cause us to get one body after another. So, but what does it really mean, material contamination? How do you know if you're materially contaminated? It's very easy. If you take birth and if you get disease, your body's going to experience death, then you're materially contaminated. Now, those are the persons that are materially contaminated, because that is the contamination. That we're a pure soul, but we've come into this contaminated position where instead of experiencing eternal blissful life full of knowledge, we're experiencing repeated birth and death with old age and disease packed in between, and so much ignorance. So this is material contamination: birth, old age, disease, death, ignorance, lust, greed, envy, pride, anger, all these kind of traits. This is all symptomatic of material contamination. So we can get free from all that. So, I mean, that's the main contribution of ISKCON, of the Hare Krishna movement, is that we can free people from death. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I think that's a pretty valuable contribution, don't you? We can free people from disease. We can ensure people won't grow old anymore. I mean, they're trying to do that with COVID, right? They're failing pretty miserably. It's just getting worse and worse. So they're not doing a good job at controlling disease and stuff. But we have the process that can put a permanent solution to all these problems. No more birth, no more old age, no more disease, no more death. And the only way to do that is no material process, is a spiritual process. You have to develop your love for God, engage in His service, and then when the body dies, then it won't take birth again. That's where you break the cycle. How do you break that cycle of samsara, birth and death? Is you break it after death, before the next birth. So before the next birth, you can't stop death. You can't stop it before that. But after the death, instead of being transferred to another material body, the soul is transferred to a spiritual body. And you're free. Free from material contamination.
Yay.
And just the final thing. And then achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness and transcendental loving service of the Lord. So that's it. So you're free from the misery. Come back to Godhead, engaging in the loving service of the Lord. And that's perfect happiness. And that's the perfection of life. To get free from suffering and be always happy. And that's basically summing up what Krishna consciousness is. What is Krishna consciousness? By serving Krishna, you get free from suffering and enjoy happiness forever. So put up your hands if you want that.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're completely free not to want that, but you're a complete idiot. And most people are. So I mean, I think all the fumes I smelt today has made me a bit of a joker. So
you took my crown.
Too many petrol fumes. So, but that's a fact, and that's what this verse is saying. You know, free from material contamination, which is the suffering of the material world, and then the perfect happiness. You know, to be a loving servant of Krishna, that's the perfect happiness. Krishna, he takes care of us better than, he's the best master. He takes care of us better than anyone else. And now we've got Maya as our master. Did you know? If anyone asks, who's your master? It's Maya. You know, she's the control of the material world. But she's not quite the same master as Krishna. You know, do you know what Maya or Durga, what she carries?
Trident.
Yeah, it's called Trishu.
Trident.
Got 3 prongs. So one is Adhyatmic Klesha, one's Adibhaltic Klesha, and one's Adidaivic Klesha. So that means miseries of the body and mind, and then miseries from other living entities, and then miseries from the natural disasters, demigods, and so forth. So she's constantly punishing the living entities there for turning away from Krishna. You know, so she's not such a good master. Better to accept Krishna as our master. If you have to have someone as a master, then why not accept Krishna? You analyze it. Okay, what's this master like? What's her name? Trying to remember the name of the Prime Minister here. What's your one over there? I know he's a man.
ScoMo. Scott Morrison.
Would you rather have ScoMo as your master, or this Jacinda Ardern as your master, or Krishna as your master? I'd rather have Krishna.
Krishna, without a doubt.
Yeah,
a no-brainer.
Yeah. I tell you what, there was this. I saw some news. There, one lady set herself on fire in her car with petrol, 4 cans of petrol, in Melbourne. She's so upset with the, what do you call it, the premier what do you call that? What's Melbourne area? Victoria.
Victoria.
She's so upset with the leader, with the master, the boss of Victoria, that she poured 4 cans of petrol over herself in front of the police and lit herself on fire. And she had a card on her window or whatever saying that, this is it. I'm just so unhappy. Just so, due to all this lockdown rubbish or mandates. This mandates is making me crazy. So she killed herself because of the bad leader. So. Luckily, they're not all like that. There's one good leader named Krishna, and he doesn't put any stupid mandates on us, forcing us to do stuff that's not good for us. He only tells us to do things that's good for us.
Is it called? Is doing that, setting yourself on fire, is called immolation, or is it immolation?
One word that's similar is annihilation. Annihilation,
we're close,
but yeah, I don't know what the word for it. I mean, maybe it's becoming a sad common phenomenon. People
remember the Buddhists
gone up to the roof. I mean, New Zealand is very bad. Australia, also all around the world, so many suicides. Many of them, and they're saying, is because of this getting even worse because of the stupid, policies of the governments. Locking people down, not letting people be free anymore to do things. And I mean, luckily, we can take shelter of Krishna consciousness, but even if we are physically locked down, I mean, we're so lucky that we can chant Hare Krishna and read Prabhupada's books and take prasadam and so forth. But I just feel sad for all these people, that are not Krishna conscious. Even the little happiness that they had before of some sense gratification, even that is taken away, so it's very, very unfortunate. And that's because, we're under Maya, under Durga. She's punishing us, you rascal.
The figures the other day I saw was 9 a day. Now, I don't know if that's in New South Wales or Australia-wide. Every day.
Yeah, every day.
That's nearly 60 a week.
Yeah. So far more than what's dying from COVID. Far more.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think some of you have to go now, so we better finish up. But on a positive note, remember, if we fully engage ourselves as much as possible in Bhakti Yoga, then we're going to get free from this material world of suffering and go back to Godhead and enjoy forever. Enjoy forever. No more diseases, no more crazy governments, and just a blissful existence. It's said that in the spiritual world, every word is a song, every step is a dance. So every tree is a desire tree that fulfills all desires. So that's just a little indication of how wonderful the spiritual world is. So let's look forward to that, lockdown or no lockdown. We're just thinking about that. We're just thinking about that. And we've got to go through whatever we've got to go through. But that's our meditation. We're working towards, that's what we're working towards that.
Bhakti, am I going to see you tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll see you in the morning.
We practice kirtan.